Welcome to the realm of magic and mystery, classic horror and sci-fi. You are now entering the House of the Unusual podcast with your hosts, Eddie and Joe. Welcome all you cool ghouls and friendly fiends to the House of the Unusual podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pavlansky. With me as always is the maestro of mail order mysteries and owner of House of the Unusual, Eddie Guevara. Today's guest is one of our fan favorite returning guests, horror magician Chuck Caputo. Chuck, how's it going, brother?
All right, pretty good, Joe. It's always a pleasure coming on, and things are going great, man. Pittsburgh weather. We'll talk about that. All this cloudy weather. I don't know what the heck's going on, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely dig into that, plus a little more. Let's start off with a few announcements here, man. If you guys are out there, man, check out houseoftheunusual.com. That is our home website. We got a lot of cool stuff on there, a forum, a lot of videos on there, and a direct link to the podcast. So check that out. And then we also have some friends that are affiliated with us as well. We have Todd Machin over at sea-monkeys.com, and you can find all your sea monkey needs there. They're always putting out new products, so definitely check in there. Also, check out stupidcomicsmagazine.com, and that's stupid spelled STOOPID. And what this comic magazine is, it's like a mixture of Mad Magazine, Cracked, and The Far Side all rolled into one, man. It really takes you back to those good old days where, you just have some crazy, zany fun in a comics magazine. So he has issues 0 through 3 out, with number 4 going to be coming out soon. And I believe in issue number 5, there's going to be a House of the Unusual advertisement in there. So be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, you could also check us out on YouTube under House of the Unusual. There's a ton of videos on there. Hit that subscribe button, like our videos, leave a comment, and we'll get back to you. So that's all for the announcements. Oh, also head on over to, let me pull up the link here real quick so I have it. It's going to be mymoviemonsters.com, and you could find the newest issue of Scary Monsters magazine out, and that is issue number 122, the Never Say Die issue. And I have a great article in there that has to do with the Three Stooges and their attempt to develop a potion to turn old people young again. So it covers 2 episodes in there about that, and it's just a lot of fun. So that is mymoviemonsters.com, Scary Monsters magazine number 122. It's also at your local bookstores. So that's all I got for announcements for today. Chuck, I'm going to turn it over to you, man. What's new? I know you're working on a lot of different magic items and all that. Is there anything you could tell us or tease us about? What's coming up new?
I tell you what, I've been working really hard, and we've been in a collaboration with the House of the Unusual. We're coming up with some great effects. I mean, they're really, really professional magic tricks, and yet they're easy to perform. And I've been delving into the recesses of my memory. I've been doing magic since I was a little kid, and I know a lot of procedures and so forth. So we've been coming up with some really cool stuff. I mean, it deals with zombies and all kinds of spooky stuff. I mean, it's really, really cool. Some nice effects. Eddie's doing a lot of the packaging, and I tell you what, he's top notch when it comes to the packaging. I'm very, very impressed with his, expertise in this field.
Yeah, I tell you what, he showed me the box art for the first one that's going to be coming out, man.
Oh,
There's this really
gorgeous.
handsome gentleman that's on the front of it. I can't remember his name, man. Man, oh, that's right, it's me.
I like that. I like that face you made there, Joe. That's pretty good, man.
But seriously, yeah, he did an excellent job on it. And
Yes.
and we were talking before we started recording, and you just touched on it now, that these are going to be some magic tricks that are very simple. And I'm a person that has no type of background in magic and all that, and I cannot wait to try these out, because first of all, they're horror themed, so that's already in my
Absolutely.
niche. So I definitely want to try them out and see what they're about. And now that I know that they're not that hard, maybe
No.
someone like me that has zero background in it, could try it out. So so for all the people out there, be on the lookout for our magic line. And if you have no background in magic like myself, man, these are perfect for people like that. Is that correct, Chuck? Would someone like me be able to pick this up?
Absolutely. You know what? When I kind of created these effects, I kept that in the foremost part of my mind. I'm thinking, okay, this has to be for people that are not, you know what I mean? That they're not no sleight of hand and so forth, and yet they're effective tricks. Yeah, they're mind blowing tricks. I mean, I actually tried a lot of these out on my wife, and she's my toughest critic. I mean, so if I could, yeah, so I could get past. And she got like 20/20 vision plus, and she will not hesitate to call me out. So it passed her scrutiny. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
Awesome. Now we have some of your magic videos on YouTube under House of the Unusual, but you also have your own YouTube channel, correct? With some of your videos on it.
Yes, that's correct. If you go to YouTube, you could search magician Chuck Caputo, or you could search my wife, Sherry Caputo, and it's Cheri is the way she spells it. And yeah, so I'm always creating stuff too that I put on there, as well. And there's a lot of spooky stuff that I put on there, items that move, items that float, just with an unusual twist. I mean, I'm pretty well known throughout the magic community worldwide as an unusual magician. You know what? I just don't do the stock type of magic, and I create a lot of scary, spooky type of things.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've checked out a few of them, since we've met and started talking all that, and they are some amazing tricks, man, that are
Well, thank you.
really cool, man. Especially for people out there that like anything that's horror themed, man. This is right up their alley. So yeah, I'm excited about these coming out.
Yeah, you know what, Joe? I always love to scare people with my magic. I don't know why, but you know, anything that moves or floats, particularly like any kind of the animation, I should say, what it actually shocks people, man, if it's close up or stage or whatever, but I love floating type of things or anything that moves, and there's like generally no strings attached that I use or, things of that nature. There's different methods that I come up with where the items could be examined before and after. So it really into into the next dimension.
Awesome, man. Sounds good. Super excited about that, and we'll definitely have it on the website, and it will definitely be pushing it out there so everyone has the opportunity to check them out. So, Eddie, what's new over at the House of the Unusual? I know you've been taking good care of the house and keeping it clean and exciting things going on. So, what's new?
Well, the best part about it, Joe, is, and I mean, this is fantastic news. Since I've been keeping it clean, all the dust, I've been bottling it up, and I'm going to be selling House of the Unusual dust vials. It's the best in the world. You know what I mean? Just like the famous monsters, Dracula's castle, dirt from Dracula's castle. We're going to have dirt from House of the Unusual.
Hey, that might be a good seller there, man.
Yeah, well, hey. Well, the whole thing is what's happening is, as Chuck had been telling you guys right now, we're developing a whole new product line. Now, our product line is going to consist of two lines of product. One are going to be simple, cheap, inexpensive, good magic tricks that are going to be very affordable. We're also going to have a more deluxe product line, which is going to be called the horror line. And that'll be on the Chuck Caputo Magic Horror line. It'll be like Trick 101, 102. And right now, we're going to introduce two of the deluxe tricks in the next couple of days. And we're going to also introduce a line of about 6 or 7, cheaper, nice tricks that you can do around, in a party or go table to table, close up magic, things that are popular for all those.
Now when you say cheap tricks, we're not going to be selling people, a fishing line and a balloon, right? And say, hey,
well, you just can't.
These are quality tricks at a cheaper price, right?
Exactly. But now that you said that, the problem is you kind of ruined it, because I was sending, like I was going to send a clothesline dryer powered by the sun. Send them a clothesline, But apparently, uses no electricity. The ultimate mail order item, right?
Absolutely.
But the whole thing is that we had planned, and I had mentioned in a previous podcast, that we were going to, on July 28th, which is a Thursday, we were going to launch a 1.5 hour episode on Chuck, and he was going to be launching the line. We're actually going to push that down a week or so. And the reason for it is because of production. I want to have all the items ready and stuff. And unfortunately, with the times and so many companies that were during COVID closed down and stuff, I've had a little bit of a problem getting all the supplies. Having said that, I'm looking forward. I mean, Chuck is going to do a phenomenal job like he always does. And right now, as Chuck was saying, the weather around his neighborhood has been a little down and out, and has caused him to be walking the cemetery a little more often. In
Yeah.
which case, I have a feeling Chuck has been brainstorming more strange and unusual horror magic to blow people's minds away.
Yeah, let's touch on that real quick, Chuck, because I tell you what, the other day I was driving out and I said, man, I thought because it was hot out. I said, man, it's awfully humid out here. I could
Yeah.
barely, see in the distance. And a buddy of mine texted me and said, man, that's all smoke coming in from wildfires out west in Canada and all that. And I guess I'm in Youngstown, Ohio, and I guess it made it out, all the way to you out in Pittsburgh, right?
Oh, absolutely. Pittsburgh has been crazy. It started about 2 mornings ago. I'm outside. I'm the heck is the sun? Because the other days before were nice and sunny, and it just had a weird feel to it. I said something is going on, and my wife called me from work. She's a nurse, and she called me from work, and she said, "Did you hear about these fires in Canada?" I said, "No, I have no idea what you're talking about." And so that's when she explained to me, yeah, that the smoke is coming over. But what's weird, Joe, is we don't smell anything. Do you smell any burnt odor or anything? It doesn't seem like it's out here at all. I don't smell anything.
No, that's the thing. That's why I kind of thought it was humidity, because I didn't smell anything. I didn't really see the smoke, moving. It just kind of looked like a very humid day, where just a humid, muggy day. As I
Overcast.
was driving, but when I was going to meet some buddies out at a cigar shop, and I got out and I said, you know what? I said, it's not really that humid out here. I said, this is kind of odd. Why does it look humid? And then a few hours later, that's when my buddy texted me, said that it's smoke coming in from the fires. I was like, man, that's pretty crazy. But I tell you what, it's the last few nights, because of the smoke, the moon has been a really cool color of orange. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it's really cool, really neat. You mentioned a cigar shop, Joe. The one thing I do is you know what? When I do walk, I like to smoke a cigar. You know what I mean? And I smoke Avanti. I don't know if you ever. It's an Italian brand. It's black licorice flavored, and you know what? I smoke
That's
this.
the ones that are real skinny, and they got I believe they have anise in them.
Exactly, the anise flavored.
Yeah.
You know what? They're kind of mild. They're not real bad. But a lot of people take offense to black licorice. I don't know why. A lot of people do not care for it. I've always been a fan. Like if I go to a candy place, I look at the old black licorice pinwheels. Always liked those since I was a kid. A lot of people do not like black licorice. I don't know why. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I'm not a fan of black licorice, but I do like those cigars. I would um they didn't have it last year because of COVID, but every year there used to be a little Italian festival, Briar Hill Fest,
Oh,
and
cool.
they would have those cigars right next to the beer tent. So I'd grab a little cold draft beer and grab one of those cigars and sit there and listen to the music, and it was
Oh,
a
that's neat. That
nice way to
sounds cool.
relax. But yeah,
It's cool. We got the Irish Festival coming up here in Pittsburgh in the beginning of September. My wife and I always go. It's just a cool time. I love Irish music. I love the folklore. It's fantastic. They're very nice
yeah,
people. I'm not Irish. I mean, I'm Italian predominantly, but I love the Irish culture. My wife is part Irish and English and so forth. But it's a fun time, man. It really is. It's really cool.
yeah, I'll listen to anything. Hey Eddie, you're way out in Jersey. Did you guys get hit with any of the smoke out there?
No, absolutely not.
Wow.
You guys were making me think there was a time back in the past. I don't quite remember when it happened, when there was a huge volcano that erupted. Do you guys remember? And it actually covered the earth in ash.
Oh, was that
And
Mount St. Helen? I remember that in the 1980.
was it? Yeah, I think it was in the 80s something that it actually cooled the earth by 1 degree.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah, that was a big thing because it actually blasted up, and that's what you were making me think. And again, I was thinking about the time when we had during Hurricane Sandy, we had the blackout, and you would go outside, and the whole world looked like it was ashy white.
Hmm.
And it just kind of like it was took. And so it came to the question that I wanted to ask Chuck. Chuck, in your walks by the cemetery, did you ever have somebody tap you in the shoulder, and then you turned around and no one was there?
Not. happen yet. You know what? I'm not the only strange one out there. I usually go about 7 in the morning, 7:30. I take my dog for a walk, believe it or not. So he takes me for a walk. He's part pit bull and part boxer. He's a big, strong dog. But there's other people. There's other strange people in there walking around besides me. I'm not the only one. I'm surprised. Every once there's an old man that walks in there. There's a jogger that comes through. So I don't know. It seems like to be a popular place around 7:30, 7 o'clock in the morning for some reason.
Yeah, but the twist at the end is you think those are people, but they're actually ghosts that are.
Yeah, you don't know. Who knows?
The only living one there.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, that's true.
It's funny the popularity. I think I was talking to Tom. Tom say, Dr. Saab called me up the other day, and when he calls me up, he's like, about I think it was yesterday or the day before, and he goes to me, Eddie, you ever notice how all the famous mail order companies were either in New York or New Jersey, or how many of them were here? And I said, in reality, that is correct. Chicago, Illinois had Johnson Smith back in the early 20s, and then Johnson Smith obviously went over to Racine, Wisconsin, and then from there went over to Michigan. But the funny thing is that in this area, you do tend to have a lot of those original magic companies and stuff, which is really interesting. But one thing that we do have in Jersey, which is something, Pennsylvania probably has better, is we have some really ancient cemeteries in the area,
Oh yeah.
And the kind of crazy thing about that, how for filming any type of thing in there, it would be phenomenal. I mean,
it would be great,
especially in Pittsburgh where you are, Chuck. I mean, I'm sure. And the thing is, like I'm saying, like what Tom was saying, that he wanted to come on. He's going to come on, and we're going to be discussing haunted house rides. Like dark rides from amusement parks.
Oh, that would be cool.
It is super cool. And I think Tom, as a young kid, actually visited almost every part of New Jersey and New York to ride the haunted houses. And I will tell the story at that time how I tried to purchase the last remaining one in the country, which I'm kind of glad I didn't, because Hurricane Sandy put it out of commission.
Put out of commission, yeah.
Yeah, but I was thinking I could have always sold, instead of rides in the little doom buggies, I could have little sailboats,
Yeah, I could see Eddie having that ride at his house and not letting anybody in it, and just him riding it all day, and little kids coming saying, "Hey Eddie, could we go on your ride?" He's going, "No, get out of this. Is mine."
And I definitely would. I was like, "Get away, kid! You bother me." Remember WC Field?
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah, every time the little kid go, "Come on," he would say, like, "Get away, kid! You bother me."
Yeah. Oh man, that's great. Hey, but there is one dark house ride still in existence that I know of, and I think this is kind of like a lead-in. I think tonight's topic is like scary monsters and so forth. But in Erie, PA, which is a beautiful, beautiful place, it's about 3 hours north of me. I'm in Pittsburgh. If you go up 79 north, you bump right into Erie. Beautiful. There's Waldemar Park. It's a really cool theme park, and they have a dark house ride. Is it called the Wacky Shack or something like that?
Yeah,
and that's the old chair sit in. It takes you through. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful.
There's actually a YouTube channel that has an entire tour of that ride. The only thing that I kind of hate about that ride, it's got a pretty lame name, Wacky Shack.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I could see Ghost House or something like that, but why would you put a haunted house, call it Wacky Shack?
Oh yeah. It seems like years before, Eddie, when we were younger. I mean, I remember here in Pittsburgh up at Kennywood Park, they had 2 or 3 dark house rides. You know what I mean? They either one burned down, the other one they took out, and it's a shame. But those things are a thing of the past. I mean, they're not around like they used to be.
Well, see, I remember, and this is kind of like really interesting. Back when I was very young, and I went to Coney Island, it was not on the Coney Island Strip, but when you walked out and went about 2 blocks, I think it was Ocean Avenue. I forgot the name of the road or street. There was a thing that was kind of called the Spook House or Ghost House.
Oh, I remember reading about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but the funny thing is that the one I tried to purchase was in Keensburg, and it was called the Ghost House. Well, I'm sorry, the Spook House. But looking at the photographs of the outside of it, when I would go to Keensburg and it would be there, And every time I look at the outside, it reminded me of the one from Coney Island.
Yeah.
Led me to wonder if it was actually the same guy who had two of them.
Okay.
I know as a kid, man, I wanted to go in, and my mom said, no, you got to go in the park. And I'm like, but I want to go in that one. And let me tell you the truth, though. And this is phenomenal. One day I decided to sneak in a camera because I mean, I love it when they tell you can't bring a camera in. I'm like, sure, no problem. Absolutely. I promise you, I have no camera in my possession. I go inside and I take my iPhone and I'm there flashing pictures. And I'm like, what? It's literally like 20 feet by 30 feet deep. It's like a storefront.
Yeah.
And then the track actually goes like in a spaghetti thing all around the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're actually thinking you're going through all these rooms and
Oh,
doors.
you know what? It's a big illusion, man. It's a big
Oh
illusion.
my gosh, man. But it's phenomenal, though. I mean, let's be honest. It would be so cool to own one. I mean, I think of all the rides, I mean, walk-in rides are okay, but they don't have the same impact as the ones that you ride inside the Doom Buggy.
No, absolutely. Absolutely not. There was a couple things in Kennywood Park out here in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. Back when I was a kid, we used to go there several times a year. One was called the Ghost Ship. It was really cool. That burned down in about 1976, I think, somewhere in that area. But that was really cool. Then he had another one called the La Couche. I think in French it means dungeon, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that place, that was really cool. It had those the classic chairs. They were the red hard vinyl seats that and it would take you through. You could hear the air compressor going off, and it was phenomenal. But they're all gone. I mean, those rides are gone.
They're all gone. They're all gone. Now this is very famous. People don't realize that in front of Weird New Jersey, and I think in one of the famous magazines that Scary Monsters, there's always a smiling face that's very predominantly you see from Coney Island back in the 1930s and 40s.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, Joe and Chuck?
Yeah, I do.
I forgot. He's got a name. I don't know if it's Willie or something like that. In New Jersey, there was a park called Asbury Amusement Park.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, this was very famous, especially with this famous singer that he had a song called in Asbury Park. What is it? Billy Joel.
Right.
Yeah, it was Billy Joel in Asbury Park, and a lot of famous people go there. Of course, when you went over the last couple of years, it became dilapidated and old, and of course now that a lot of rich companies have gone in and built super rich mansions and stuff in the area. So now, of course, you can't even afford land there. But years ago, right after the park, they started closing down the park and all that. Now, what made this very famous was, of course, it had the smiley face outside the building, but the whole amusement park was kind of like indoors.
Mm-hmm.
I remember riding one of those dark rides when I was a little kid, and what was so cool about the dark ride was, as I was riding it, one of the guys that was running the ride, he had a big giant rubber rat, and he would, he goes to me, "You have to be careful, the rats," and he was massaging the rat, right? And as we're going in the thing, and you know how the wooden doors pop open when the car goes in?
Yeah.
You would feel like strands of hair that would hit you in the face.
Yeah.
And, you would think it would be like the rats hanging from the ceiling. And I'll never forget that particular dark ride. But you know what, though, honestly? Every time I go, like, especially in the Meadowlands, New Jersey, where the Giants Stadium is, every year in the summertime, for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks out of the summertime, they have what they call the Meadowlands Fair. And there's always 2 or 3 haunted house trucks in there.
Oh, nice.
Now the only thing about the trailers, when you get, they have the little Doom Buggy.
Yeah.
I mean, like inside, they're totally lit up. Because even during the day, it's not really dark. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's supposed to be dark, but actually you're going in the thing and it's all lit up because obviously, there are cheaper versions of the rides. But I'm fascinated with that. I just like going to those carnivals just to get on those things.
Oh, they're cool, man. They're cool.
Oh, yeah. The artwork is phenomenal. Joe, tell us your version.
That's what I always was drawn to, the artwork. And we used to have a little fair near here at Canfield Fair, and I remember back in the 80s and early 90s, they used to have a lot of the fun houses that you would walk through, but they also had a lot of the the haunted house, ones that you would ride through. And, even back then you kind of knew they were, a little corny and all that, but they were just, man, they were so much fun. And what really got you there was the artwork outside.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, that's what really drew you to it. And I remember one time I was up in, this was probably about 2005 or six, somewhere around there, maybe 2005. And I was up in Canada, Niagara Falls, and they had one of the areas up there. They had a bunch of haunted houses, and what drew me into it was the artwork on the outside. I remember one had a real large Frankenstein figure and all that. And you walk through the haunted houses, and it was, very cheesy and all that. I mean, there was some cool stuff, but it was the artwork that
It was the
really
artwork that drew
into
you
it.
in.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. I know what you mean, Joe. That's that airbrushing, the airbrushed artwork. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful.
And you really don't see that anymore. Like you don't see them. I used to see them all the time at even, if you would go to like a church festival, or if you went to like a city fest or something like that, you would have these different rides, whether it was a horror themed one, or a some type of, wacky, fun house type deal. And you really just don't see them anymore. And I used to really like the ones on the fun houses where you would walk and the tunnel would move.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
yeah, you would try to walk through it, and if you were able to position yourself right, you could, turn around in a 360 with the tunnel. Those are really cool, but you just, very rarely see those anymore. And I know when Eddie and I talked a couple weeks ago, we were looking online for some, and there's still a lot out there where people are selling them. And it's, it was really a shock to me to see that it's just, some of them are just basically like trailer sized, or the size of two, semi trailers. I'm like, my gosh, those things aren't big at all,
No, that's
Like you
amazing.
said, it's definitely an illusion, because when you go inside, it's a lot larger than you think it is.
Let me tell you one thing. The Wacky Shack that Chuck was talking about actually has that spinning device that I said to you one time, that there was a truck, like a 24-foot straight job, they call them, moving trucks, and it was called the black hole. And inside, when you went up the stairs, you actually, just like the Wacky Shack, where you go in the center and the thing is spinning around completely like that.
Yeah.
It was the same exact principle. But one thing I was going to say about that spinning tunnel too is, this is in Universal Studios in Florida. They have a ride called the Ruins, and this is the most phenomenal ride out there. It's not like a ride; it's like a show. But as you're watching the show, at the end they have this thing. It's kind of like an Indiana Jones type of show, and at the end, when you're going, like, because at first it starts like a story of two gods going out, fighting each other with swords. It's phenomenal, and the sight and the sound. It's great, but they have this thing with water that forms a tunnel that you have to kind of walk in.
Ooh, that
And the
would be
water
cool.
just spins around your head.
Wow.
Oh my God, that is such a cool ride.
Wow, I
Like,
would
that's
love
the
to.
only thing.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the universe. I haven't been to Disney World since the early '80s when they just had the Magic Kingdom.
Well, I hadn't been in my entire life. I've only been there twice now. I went like 5-6 years ago, and then I went about a year and a half, 2 years ago. But here's the thing I want to tell you, Chuck. If you go to YouTube and you look up the Ruins from Universal, the ride, I'm sure somebody's got
Somebody got, yeah.
And you can get an idea of the way but the way the water spins, they have like this jets, and it makes it form into a tubular. So you're walking underneath the thing, and it looks like the ocean opened up.
Isn't it amazing?
It is awesome. I mean, that's a great thing. And Joe just reminded me of that, because I remember there were many rides in the 1970s. I'm trying to remember the one particular one that you did go into that barrel, and you're trying to walk across, and you're falling down because the thing is spinning with you in it. and I think they got that idea from Time Tunnel. Remember that show where you went into the tunnel and you shrunk back in the 60s or 70s? We used to watch. And Time Tunnel had that. They would go into the tunnel, and that's how they went into a different time zone,
Hey, Chuck, do you remember, because what Eddie was discussing just kind of jogged the memory of mine. Have you ever been to Geauga Lake Park?
Yeah, years ago when I was a kid. That was pretty cool.
Now, do you remember a ride called the Hell Hole?
I think I
Oh
do
my
remember
God.
that.
So
Yeah, I think I do remember. Yeah.
so for anybody that's not out there, that's not familiar with the Hell Hole or needs a reminder, it was basically, you could also watch the people inside, but it was just a round device, and you put your body, your back towards the wall, heels to the wall, and it would start spinning around
Yeah.
really fast, and then the floor
I,
would drop.
I remember that. Yep.
Oh man, I loved that thing. I used to go sideways on it.
Yeah,
Man,
that would all be based on centrifugal force. That was neat,
yeah,
man.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
yeah,
You
that
spit.
was. But you know what, if you remember, and I could briefly remember, is that they had some really cool artwork on the outside
They
of
had
it.
cool artwork. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, of like the airbrush, like demons and devils and fire and all that. Man, it was just. I mean, you saw that, you were like, "Oh, what the heck is this thing?" And then you
well,
could actually go on top and watch the people inside spinning.
Joe, I mean, it's funny that you brought up the topic. I'll tell you why. I found that I recently transferred my 1975, or I think it was 74, 75 trip to Coney Island on Super 8 film. I transferred it over to digital, and I sent a copy to Todd, and I don't know if I think I sent one to Dr. Saab too. I don't know if I sent you and Chuck. It's about maybe 10 minutes long, and it's 4 films of Coney Island from 1974,
Wow, that would be cool.
75. Here's the thing: the main topic on that is the hellhole.
Oh, really? They had one out there.
Oh yeah, Coney Island they still have it. I don't know if it's still there today or not, but I mean I don't know. There was also a ride called Spookorama, which it was the interesting thing about the ride. It was like one of those rides, of course, but it was like it was a dark ride, but you would go and there was a section that you were actually riding outside, and then you go into one section and then you go outside like a little track outside the
I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then you go in, and it was called Spookorama, and you can actually I'm actually on the ride riding it, and you could see it. But the hellhole, I think I'm not sure if I filmed the inside of the hellhole, where you go and it was all like a wooden. It kind of looked like a wooden, well, something round. It was a round thing, wooden, and had a wooden floor. And yes, centrifugal force would get you stuck to the wall, and then the floor go down. The artwork you're talking about with the demons and stuff, Joe, it's outside. It's huge. And my stepfather at the time actually filmed the entire outside of it, and you can see it. But here's the best part about it too. It had a she devil, like a female that's supposed to be a devil, female, whatever. The funny thing about it, she's probably about maybe 4 feet tall, and she was spinning left and right, and she had a cape. But I thought it was kind of funny that at the time, if you look at her, she's showing a little bit more than you would expect for
Uh,
a park. And the funny thing about it is, I'm going to send it to you guys to watch it. You just watch it, the woman,
I'd like to see
and
that.
watch
Yeah.
all the features that it shows of her. And it's so funny. But yeah, talking about the hellhole, that's one of the main rides in Coney Island, or was.
Yeah.
Chuck, I, I misspoke. It was Conneaut Lake Park, not Geauga Lake Park.
Okay, Coney. Yeah, yeah. I've been there many times. As a matter of fact, I did a show in there about 5 or 6 years ago. They've been having a lot of financial issues out there. They're trying to keep
Yeah.
that place afloat. It's a man. It sure brings back memories. I was on the main stage, I guess 4 or 5 summers ago, and it's a what it sure brings back memories. But like I said, they're having a lot of issues. But but out here in Kennywood, they had their version of the hellhole. It was called the rotor. It was the same thing. You'd spin, the floor would drop. That was a rough ride, man. Even when I was a kid, I felt kind of nauseous on there.
Yeah,
Now,
I think
whew,
that's what Geauga Lake Park had. So I think it was called the Rotor there, because it wasn't the hellhole, but it was the same
yeah,
exact concept. Conneaut had the hellhole, and I want to say Geauga had, it might have been called the Rotor or
rotor.
something like that.
Hey,
Yeah.
Okay.
you know what's funny, guys? I can do spinning, anything. Never do I get nauseous. I can't
Wow.
do roller coasters, man. The last
Wow.
time I rode a roller coaster was in Great Adventure, New Jersey, when it was the lightning loops. And here's another thing: when it goes backwards, it's not that bad. But when you
Ooh,
go forward, man, I leave my soul up in the sky, and
yeah.
my body goes down. Like I hate drops.
Yeah, and you're not kidding.
No, because of that, that's why I hate riding the Pirates of the Caribbean. Even though I love the ride, and I
Yeah,
force myself to ride it. In the beginning, there's like a 20-foot drop,
it's a big
and
drop.
oh my god, my stomach just goes. I say I hate
Yeah,
it. So
you know,
I was gonna
we
say
w-
this part. No, I'm sorry. There was go ahead, Chuck.
we went to a theme park just last week out here in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. My wife had off for a weekend, so we did a bunch of stuff. We visited the John Hines, the History Center downtown Pittsburgh, and we went to Idlewild Park, which is out in Latrobe, PA. Well, actually, Ligonier. And that's a really cool place. They have the Mr. Rogers neighborhood ride for years. Now they changed it to Daniel Tiger type of thing. But they have, you know what? I just went on two rides. I went on rides and I got sick. You know, I mean, it was a little balloon ride. A little balloon ride went up a little bit. I wasn't feeling good, and my wife had to give me like a like a ginger thing. And you know, I can't take rides anymore. It's a shame. I can't.
Yeah,
I
me
just
neither. You know, Chuck. No, what I was going to tell you is, my son-in-law cracks up with this because he's got the phone recording, and this is the only thing that they got when I got in the initial time inside the Pirates of the Caribbean.
yeah.
All you hear is and then you hear when it splashes down, shit.
That's
The
pretty
screen.
funny.
No, it was funny because he actually recorded. But
Yeah.
the thing is, I was going to tell you when my oldest, not my old, yeah, I think it was my oldest daughter. And this is hilarious because I cannot take rides that drop, right? And my stomach just flips out. And I got on, this is a caterpillar ride. It was like for little kids that
Oh,
are, and I get on it with my daughter and I'm like, this is nothing. When that thing went down the first little hill, I'm like holding on to dear life. And my wife says, "Aren't you embarrassed me?" I say, "I don't give a hoot who's watching. I can't
yeah.
take it. Help."
No, I
Oh,
get I get
you would have
sick.
loved this one out in Kennywood. And Chuck, I'm sure you're familiar with it because I believe it used to be, or it still is, the only one in the United States where it starts off with a drop. You know what I'm talking about, Chuck? Where you go maybe about 20 feet and then it just drops, I think like 50, 60 feet.
Is that the indoor roller coaster? What's it called?
No, it's an outdoor one. I believe
Outdoor.
it might be a wooden one.
Oh, are you okay? Because they got three wooden ones. They got the Thunderbolt, the Jackrabbit, and the Racer.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it is, but it starts off with a 50, 60-foot drop. And I believe at one time, it might still be, it was the only one in the world or in the United States that started with the
Sort of,
drop.
yeah. I think it might be the Jackrabbit. Tough one. That's and it's got that double dip, and you fly out of your seat maybe like 2 or 3 feet. I mean, wow.
Wow. You know who did that? If you go to see, I'm proud to say when I was young, of course, I rode the famous Lightning Thunder, whatever Rolling Thunder in Coney Island, which is like the oldest wooden roller coaster in the world, right? I rode that roller coaster about 2 times or 3 times, I think it was when I was little. Because people are not aware of this, but Coney Island was the first place in the entire planet that had a roller coaster.
Oh
So they
yeah.
go back to the late 1800s, and they were the oldest one with a roller coaster. Now, I think right now it's about 100 years old. The wooden one that I'm talking about, I think, is Rolling Thunder. But
Wow.
I'll tell you one thing: there is a part there when you're finishing the ride that when it comes down, you actually get off your seat, like you race off your seat, and you're
Yeah.
like, "What the hell?"
Absolutely.
But when it comes to rides and all that stuff, and Joe is probably good at this. My favorite are the dark rides. You cannot change my mind on that. I just love them.
Oh, those are
It's
cool.
yeah, things that spin around. The only thing I can't do is dropping. Unless, if it's backwards, I got to be honest with you. It doesn't bother me. It's
Wow,
just when you go forward that, oh my gosh,
you're
man.
better than me, Eddie. I can't go backwards. I can't spin. I can't drop. I can't do anything.
How
Whew.
about you, Joe?
You know what? I haven't been to an amusement park, and man, it's probably been maybe about 8 years or so. But I never really was one to get sick from any type of movements and all that. Um, now that I'm getting a little bit older, who knows? But I was always the type of person I could eat a big meal and go on a roller coaster and
Wow, that's great.
it
Uh,
affect me. When I
well,
when I was in the army and we used to do, when I was in the airborne unit and we used to jump out of planes, there'd be guys that they couldn't eat for a few hours before getting into plane because sometimes,
Oh,
excuse me, you get into the C-130 or 141 and
oh,
it's such a bumpy and rough ride. there'd be people throwing up, and I could sit there and eat, and
Wow.
nothing that would affect me. But that was, younger me. Now older me, I don't know if I'm, still able to handle it. But I've never had a problem with that. Never been seasick or
Wow.
anything like that. But I tell you what, the rides I think that I really, aside from the roller coaster, well, it's roller coasters, but are the old wooden ones.
Yeah, those are cool.
Like there was one out in Conrad, I think it was called the Jackrabbit, which was a really old wooden one. And man, we'd always try to get that last seat because that's the one that would whip you around and beat you up. You'd come out of there with bruised up legs, but man, I always tried to get the back on the wooden ones and the front seat on the newer ones. But
Yeah.
aside from those, I always liked the ones that kind of spun around fast. There was one
Ooh,
I
wow.
remember it would be like I think it was called the Avalanche or something, and it would have a there'd be a center rod that all the carts were stuck to, and it would go up and down, this little track just in a circle, and then it would go backwards. I always kind of
Ooh.
enjoyed those, but Cedar Point also had a cool one, and a lot of other parks have it, but I believe Cedar Point's and Geauga Lake was called the Demon Drop. You remember those?
Yeah, I remember that.
They would send you up about 100 feet or something, and then
Oh my
free fall
goodness.
drop. Oh man, I used to love those.
You guys ever seen the Frankenstein that he's sitting in a chair and they have him like tied down and he's in excruciating pain looking up at the sky?
Yeah, oh
You ever
yeah.
seen that?
Yep.
They actually did that. They sculpted that based on me on a roller coaster.
You know what? Yeah, I think these steel roller coasters are pushing the envelope. I mean, they're like getting more loops and they drop. It's just we went to Busch Gardens, I guess, about 8 or 9 years ago when the kids were younger, and some of those rides, I went on Apollo's Chariot, and my wife talked me into going on there, and I didn't want to go on, and I tried to get out the exit like 3 times. I just didn't like the looks of this ride. Yeah, and it's like a ratchet system. You push it down. There's no bars. It's a ratchet thing that goes between your legs and it locks. And I'm pulling on this thing. I'm thinking I'm like 220 pounds. I'm thinking if this thing lets loose, I'm dead. And it goes in so many circles and spins. It feels like you're flying. But I was sick after that, and
Anymore, I think I'd be more interested in, yeah, the roller coasters are fun, but after you've done certain things in your life and all that, it's kind of really the thrill with that kind of stuff is gone. I'm more like interested if I was to go to a park, more interested into a ride that would be fun with some good
yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
I kind of like the rides that got some decent music with it or some voiceover.
Exactly. You know what? If I go to Disney World, God willing, in the future, I'd like to go on It's a Small World.
Oh,
I like,
that's a phenomenal ride, man.
yeah, I like to look at nice things. I'm not crazy about going up in the air and all that stuff. I want to stay on the
You know,
ground.
Yeah.
Chuck, you know something? Well, both of you. I went with my grandson the first time I went to Walt Disney. I got on Peter Pan. Now this is funny. That was just going there because I made my son-in-law and my daughter go on the Haunted Mansion like 5 times.
Oh, that's a
I went
wonderful,
an additional 2 or 3 times with my grandson. And
wonderful.
my daughter's like, Eddie, you're not gonna get me on that again, Daddy. No way. And I'm like,
Oh,
but I remember because I really wanted to ride the ride because all my life I wanted to go see it. But I'm gonna say one thing when you say so funny. When you go on the Peter Pan ride, you're on a track, okay? And it's kind of like the little thing is going up, and the track kind of looks like it's going to come to an end, like it finishes, right?
Yeah.
And I was holding on. I go, oh my God, if this thing tips over here, we're going to get really hurt. And for a second, I was like, how is this thing going to? And then it just kind of takes off and you're flying,
Yeah.
But it's a scary thing because it looks at you, you're looking like, wait a second. But I guess that it must be through the wall. It has like a steel rod or something that holds up the cart and
Hmm.
the travel. So it was a pretty good ride.
Oh yeah.
Of course, no drops, no nothing like that, because otherwise I wouldn't have been too happy. But there's another ride that they call the Yeti.
Oh, I remember that.
And the Yeti's kind of cool because the souvenir shop sells a bunch of like Bigfoot stuff. It's kind of like, you know what? There's a ride, not a ride. It's more like I guess a museum type of thing. It's called the House of Frankenstein. They have it up in Lake George, New York. I went up there with Dave Harvest a couple of times, and this is a great. I mean, it's kind of like a walkway thing where you walk in and it's like a museum, and it has displays. But one of the displays I told you guys is like a ghost that appears. It's, oh my gosh, it's one of the best. I actually have that on video because it was so phenomenal. But then when you're coming off it, there's a part there that has like a bunch of bodies hanging like in a meat market, which is supposed to be that, to be honest, I thought it would look kind of corny. I was like, what the heck? It doesn't even match the rest of the theme, But I gotta tell you something though. The house outside, I think when it opened up in the early '70s or something, Sarah Karloff was there an opening day or something. But
Wow.
the house is, I mean, I can post some pictures or links underneath our show thing, but the house itself is really a great looking place. It's on the boardwalk, but it's really, really nicely well kept.
Wow.
But though, when you're looking at all that stuff, when you're saying about what's exciting, what's not, I'm still proud to say I think they're redoing it again. I'm not sure. But in Kingsburg, a lot of people might not know Kingsburg, New Jersey amusement park, but I think it's the second oldest park in the probably country. And what Kingsburg was famous for back in the days was that there was a ferry that people would go to Coney Island, and then they take the ferry over to Kingsburg amusement park across the thing. But the ferry was because Kingsburg, in every corner there was a bar, and it was predominantly Irish, and it was like a drinker's town. So it was very famous for that. Today, it's still like an old-fashioned amusement park where if you have a small child, you take, and it's very cheap. So it's very affordable, and it has the oldest, which I don't know. I haven't, the last time I was there, it was closed because of Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah.
But I think I'm hoping they open the Spook House again because it would be a shame to have the last one.
Yeah.
Supposedly it was last dark ride, because
Yeah.
when you have the shack, whatever that's called, the caddy, what is it called, the
Wacky
shack,
shack.
that's kind of a spook / ride, but it's see, one of the rides I really can't stand, it's the ride that, for example, how can I say, the House of Mirrors. A lot of spook rides would have the House of Mirrors when you came out.
Right.
One day I banged my head across the one of those. That was hard, man. Like, it's hard to get out of that. Like you kind of go and there's mirrors all around, so it's really interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I used to really like to at amusement parks, and I would try to find them every amusement park or fair that I went to, and they used to have a really cool one at Geauga Lake, and they had a nice one at Cedar Point as well, and I believe there was one at Kennywood, but it was the you would pay, I think it was like $1 or something, and it was the rifle with a laser, and you would hit a
those. I know exactly what you mean. That's cool, man.
Yeah, causing the target to move. You know what I'm talking about. Those were, man. I used to play I used to spend so much money on those, man, and I always loved. There was Geauga Lake had one where it was a skeleton that if you were able to hit him, he would play the
play the piano. Yeah.
In Coney Island they have it, and in Kingsburg they have it, but it's I always played that. It actually, I don't think it's a light thing. I think it actually shoots BBs in there. But you know what's so funny about that though? It's not a skeleton. It's just a guy playing the piano.
Yeah.
And you hit him. And I remember my grandfather, years ago when I was little, he thought it was a real guy sitting there. He goes, "Be careful, you don't hit the guy."
I know the one in Geauga, their guy was a skeleton, and I think that the one up in Cedar Point was just a regular, like almost like a we would see in like a western town, like a
right. Exactly. Yeah.
But the old ones were BBs, but I remember the ones that I had were lasers, and I believe they were kind of the same technology from like laser tag, during the 80s.
Absolutely.
It would give a
Yeah, but
little
remember,
air, but there was no BB or anything that came out of it.
yeah, but remember, Joe, most of those rides are from the '60s, so there is no technology like laser. If you hear it sometimes, the reason you don't see it because it shoots the BB, I think, underneath the table where you have the rifle, because you can hear it where it goes bing, bing. You know, like
Right.
it's certain things.
Yeah, that very
Right.
well
But
could be. Yeah, I'd have to look into that more and see how those were made and
yeah,
what.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think the technology. It's kind of the same thing when you had the old, um, you know, video games with the gun. It would have like a BB that shot in the bottom, and you have metallic ducts and stuff like that. This is talking
Right.
about like the
Yeah,
1970s.
yeah,
Hey
that
Joe,
could be. Yeah, I have to look into. I have to do some research on that because you know that I haven't thought about that for years, and that kind of just jogged my memory with you
Oh,
guys
that's an
talking.
interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting
yeah,
ride. Yeah, Kennywood does have one, and it is a newer one. It has the laser technology, and it's really amazing. And you ride with another person, and it keeps score. So you try and beat the person with
Oh,
you.
so you actually have a ride? There's one out there that's an actual ride.
Yeah, it's an actual ride. You go, and there's so many things, Joe, that you miss it. You have to go on it like 3 times so you can even see almost all of the stuff. It's like so much
yeah.
stuff crammed in there. It's unbelievable. But the one,
Yeah,
Hey,
the one thing I want to bring up to Eddie mentioned Coney Island. You know, throughout the years, I watched a lot of videos on Coney Island, and the one ride that really appealed to me, man, I would have loved to ride that, is the steeplechase. That looked cool.
that was way back before we were born. They shut that down, Chuck.
Yeah,
The
that
steep,
looked
yeah,
cool.
steeplechase was the 1940s. It burned down sometime early.
now, what
Uh,
was the steeplechase? What was the
horse
concept of
racing,
that?
like horses.
Horses, yep. Mechanical horse. It was a horse on a pole, and it would slide down, and you go over these different humps and so forth. It just looked so
Oh wow,
cool.
that's cool.
It was called Coney Island. I think has a name because Coney Island. There's one or two parks in the thing. One of them I think was called Astroland when I was little,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I think they changed it. I forgot what they changed it to, but you know, it's funny how this hour has gone so fast.
it
How many
did.
minutes left, Joe?
Let me check here on my handy clock. We got about 8 minutes left.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, I was like saying, man, it's crazy because it's getting so hot. But you know, Joe, when you mentioned right now the rifle and the guy playing the piano and stuff, that to me, it's got to be the best one of all. My other favorite thing to do is, you know, the balloons that you shoot the water gun into the
Oh
mouth.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely, yeah.
I
those are
always won those things, man. I was so good at it, and
wow.
you know, and you have to, as you shooting it, the thing goes up and then pops the balloon.
Yeah, those are
Oh
cool.
my gosh, man! I bought in a flea market a long time ago one of those guns from one of the amusement parks. I forget what amusement park it is, but
Oh,
it's
wow.
the gun that was you know, on that particular, not a ride, of course. What do they call those things?
Yeah, the games, the
The game
arcade.
thing. Yeah, but there's a name for it anyway. But the thing is, though, when especially when you're talking about that Coney Island, that movie that I have is phenomenal. And there's another thing that was kind of funny when you guys got on what's called the Wonder Wheel, which is still in Coney Island, and it's
Wow.
right across the original. When Coney Island before it burned down had a parachute drop, you still see the old parachute, you know, facet, the steel thing, the rotting steel hull is still in Coney Island, unless they tore it down. And I haven't been to Coney Island in, gosh, I don't know, 15, 20 years. But, or more probably. I've driven by the area, but I'm saying I haven't been in the park itself. But you would get on the Wonder Wheel, and when this Ferris wheel would go, you come all the way to the top as you came down. There's a part across the street that had on the rooftop some people sunbathing in the nude. I thought it was hilarious, you know.
Uh,
And in the video that I have, I think my mom accidentally has like a 2 second part of it that you could see that. But the thing is, this is Super 8 film with no sound. I thought it was kind of funny though when I'm looking at myself. I'm about 11 years old or 10, whatever it was, and I was so told that I looked more like 15 years old, you know. And I was like, damn, I was a pretty tall young kid, you know.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
hey, Chuck, do you remember Idora Park in Youngstown?
That sounds familiar. I've never been there, but it sounds familiar. Yep.
Now Idora Park, because it got me thinking, when Eddie was talking about the fire at Coney Island, because Idora Park, it started in 1899, and
Wow.
it had a lot of wooden stuff, but it burnt that, it completely,
Isn't that a
burned
shame?
in 1984 because of a lot of the wood there, a lot of the lacquer and all that used on the wood. But they
Yeah.
had a really cool well, a buddy of mine, his sons worked there, so he got a lot of the stuff that was still salvaged when they auctioned it off. A lot of the games and
Wow.
the
Cool.
wood from the roller coasters. But there was actually that was salvaged, and I believe it was a little bit refurbished. It was called Jane's Carousel. Um,
Ooh.
and when it was Idora Park, it was Idora Park merry-go-round, and it was changed into Jane's Carousel when it was bought and moved out to Brooklyn Bridge Park. And
Wow.
it is a very old-fashioned. I mean, it is your traditional old-fashioned merry-go-round with the carved wooden horses.
Oh, those are nice, man.
And I
Yeah.
believe it. I'm trying to look online here. Yeah, it was originally carved. Um, 48 horse carousel that was built in 1922 for
Wow.
the Philadelphia
You know,
Toboggan Company.
yeah,
Philadelphia to Wagga. And those
yeah,
horses
that
go for a
they're the
lot of
ones.
money. Whew.
Yeah, they're the ones that built all the spook rides, the
Yeah.
things.
Really, and from what I'm looking online here, it was sold in. Yeah, it was auctioned in 1984 for
Wow.
$385,000.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I could have bought it,
Yeah,
man.
you could have bought three of them.
You'd have
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
sell a lot of ghosts to get that, man. Wow.
yeah,
you,
really.
you you know something though that I'm going to tell you guys right now when you're saying about that. There's a park that a lot of you guys might not be aware of, but it's very famous, especially in DC Comics. Yeah, because they always had a free coupon inside where you can go to the famous Palisades amusement park
Oh,
in
wow.
Palisades Park, New Jersey. It was actually not in It was in Edgewater, but wasn't in Edgewater. See, now I'm off. It was either Edgewater or. But anyway, they built a couple of buildings there that's called the Winston Towers. But at one time in the '80s, Palisades Amusement Park. There's even a song that was written either by Frankie Valli or
Oh, I
one of
remember that. I remember that. Yep.
yeah, Palisades Amusement Park. And one thing about Palisades Amusement Park is they closed down in probably late 1969. I think I drove by the park as a kid. Not I think, they did actually drive me by the park, my aunt, when we were coming to New Jersey, because I used to live in Washington Heights in Manhattan back then, in upper, by the George Washington Bridge there. And that's where I grew up. But I didn't really get to go in the park. Basically, I just drove by the park and it was phenomenal. Big, giant, beautiful park.
Yeah.
When you saw it from New York City, it would light up the entire side of New Jersey
Isn't
because it
that
was
cool?
on the side of a cliff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
over the side of the cliff, you saw all the lights that said Palisades Amusement Park. Of course, the guy who had it for over 100 years sold the land. The developers came and built this huge buildings there.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, though, that was a very famous park that a lot of people don't remember, but it was, very famous in New Jersey.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Anytime, yeah, anytime you pick up a comic book, especially Superman,
There's a
it'll say
coupon.
get a ticket. It's like 35 cents a person.
Well,
Isn't
hey
that
guys,
nice?
we're a little bit over the 2 minute mark here, so let's get some final remarks or comments from you guys. So Chuck, let's go ahead with you and just give us some final thoughts.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me, guys. The one more thing I wanted to mention about the theme parks, if you have a chance, Google Laughing Cell. That's SAL. That was a mechanical woman that was at most amusement parks. When I was a kid, it was at Kennywood. It's still there. It was a laughing woman. She had a gap tooth and she was like just a strange looking woman. She'd laugh. She was a mechanical woman, scared the crap out of me. So if you have a chance, check that out. It's Laughing Cell. And thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. God bless. I hope to see you soon.
Awesome, Eddie. Last thoughts.
Yes, that laughing woman he's talking about. I laughed when Chuck said it really quick a couple of months ago because that's the first thing on the video from Coney Island, the laughing woman. A 2 minute segment of just her laughing. I think I'm gonna have to put a link to that YouTube video because
Do that.
people are gonna enjoy all that stuff we're talking about. Yeah. Other than that, guys, please tune in to us. House of the Unusual. Keep up with the latest news. I'm gonna do maybe a video about upcoming news and stuff. And that's it. God bless everybody. And it was wonderful talking to all you guys.
Awesome. Well, Chuck, Eddie, thanks for joining us. Everybody out there in podcast land, thank you for joining us. And make sure you check us out on your favorite platform. Leave us a 5-star review and a good review if you so choose to. It definitely helps us out and helps, pushing us out there to more and more people. So again, thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you next time. Good night.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.